The school I was attending was in the heart of the city and is one of the oldest in the area, and it has witnessed many mysterious events over the years. One day, a strange and terrifying incident occurred. It was an ordinary day, and I was in the 8th grade, and students were sitting silently preparing for a math exam. Suddenly, the students heard a strange sound coming from outside. The sound was like crying, and then they heard another sound. It was like snoring. When we got out of class to check the source of the sounds, we found that the source was coming from an old room that had been closed for several years. Some of the students decided to go explore the room, and when they entered the room, they found a person sitting in the corner who seemed to be asleep and looked like the previous teacher who died years ago. But when they tried to wake him up, he did not move, and his body was cold and hard as stone. As the students approached, they noticed that the person was wearing old clothes, similar to those of the school staff in the 1960s. The students told the teachers what they saw, and they called the police. A thorough investigation was carried out into the incident, and it was found that the person found in the room had died long ago, and his presence in the school had not been discovered. Since that time, students and teachers have had many conversations about the person who was found in the room, and it was said that he was a worker in the school many years ago, and he liked to work at night and spent long hours at work without resting. But one day, he died of a heart attack, and he was found in one of the rooms days after his death. The room was sealed and his body removed, but many students and teachers confirmed that they sensed someone else's presence in the school in the following days. Although everyone was talking about it, the police and the administration could not locate the source of this strange feeling. However, a few months later, something strange happened again at the school. The students were studying in the classroom, and suddenly, they heard a snoring sound downstairs. When the teachers investigated, they found that the door leading to the classroom was locked from the outside, but opened from the inside. The teachers entered the classroom and found that the tables and chairs were moving strangely, as if someone was trying to force themselves out of the classroom. While they were trying to stop this mysterious person, one of the students suddenly fell and had a fit of suffocation. An ambulance was called immediately, and the student was taken to the hospital. Fortunately, he recovered quickly. After the accident, the school closed the classroom where the accident occurred, and it was converted into a warehouse. Even though the class is closed, rumors and gossip about the presence of a supernatural entity in the school do not stop. When he closes the school in the evening, people in the area stop walking near it, and no one wants to work or study at the school. I was in high school, and we had training classes in the old building that was built in the 1960s. The old building was equipped with a room that looked deserted and cut off from the rest of the school. The room was on the 2nd floor and had not been used for teaching purposes for many years. My friends and I avoided going by the room, and we were very afraid of it. I have heard many stories about that room, including stories of a terrifying snoring sound heard inside, and of the ghosts that appear in it now and then. We had a training class on the ground floor, and time was going very slowly that day. I was bored and sleepy, so I decided to go up to the 2nd floor to get some fresh air. There was no one on the 2nd floor, and it was quiet, except for the sound of small footsteps on the other side of the corridor. I started to hear a strange sound, and it was getting louder with time. However, it was no one's voice. Rather, the voice sounded like it was coming from the deserted room. I started to get scared and panicked, and I didn't know what to do. It didn't take long before the voices died down, but fear and dread persisted in my heart. I thought I was seeing something moving fast in the dark, and I couldn't move because of fear. This experience was so terrifying it led me to decide never to go back to that room again, and to avoid passing by it in the future. But things didn't end there. For a little later, I noticed that I was seeing strange things sometimes, things that would appear to me in the hidden nooks and crannies of the school. I began to feel that I was being chased, that something horrible was always after me, and I had no idea what that might be. I started receiving strange messages from an unknown person on my mobile phone, And these messages contained pictures of strange and terrifying things, and the person was asking me to go to the abandoned room in the high school. These letters made me fearful and terrified, and I had no idea what to do. It was a very dreadful experience, and I had no idea how to get rid of this dreadful feeling and perpetual haunting. But it worked out in the end, and nothing bad happened to me or anyone else. But I am still haunted by the terror and fear of that experience, and I believe I will never forget it. The high school I attended was incredibly terrifying. That school was a bit old and deserted, and there were some mysterious events that happened in the school, but I didn't believe in ghosts and supernatural beings. But after my experience, all those thoughts changed. One night, I was with a group of friends at school, and we were having fun and laughing, and suddenly I remembered a terrifying story that was told to me about school. As we were passing the school, I saw someone standing and looking at us from afar, who was wearing old, creepy clothes and was carrying a huge knife. My friends and I got very scared, but we couldn't escape. The man kept slowly coming towards us, his eyes shining in the dark, and we started running and screaming. However, he was advancing towards us steadfastly and resolutely. He managed to reach us and started chasing us. We ran away and hid in the tool room of the school. There was a bad smell emanating from inside, and we were scared and terrified. After a while, we started to hear strange noises, and the air was moving unusually, and made us feel that something was not there in the room. We felt that we were not alone, and something was moving in the dark, and after a few moments, a scary person appeared in the dark and started screaming, and suddenly, we heard a writhing sound in our ears, and it was a very disturbing and scary sound. And then we realized that the person we were feeling in the dark was playing around coffee beans. The figure started to move slowly and came out of the darkness. He looked like an old man. He was wearing old clothes and a long skirt. He was holding a gun in his hand. And the man began to speak to us in a strange and frightening manner, and said, "I expect that you came here because you have heard stories about this school, right?" And we could not answer him. The man started to speak strangely, and he was talking about trivial and scary things at the same time. He told us about the death of some students in the school, and this news was very terrifying. And after the man had finished speaking, he disappeared into the darkness, and we were never seen again. And the air kept moving strangely in the room. We ran out of the room and ran out of the school as fast as we could, fear filling our hearts, and we couldn't stop screaming and screaming until we got home. Since then, I couldn't get rid of those terrifying moments that happened at school, and I left that place and haven't been there since. But the question still in my mind remains, was that man real or was it just a fantasy? A few years ago, when I was in high school, my friends and I made plans to skip class and play basketball near our school's building. It was near the end of the semester, and I can't recall which grade I was in, but that's inconsequential. The basketball court, which was located on the edge of a forest, was accessible to us, even though I'm unsure whether the school actually owned it. Despite being visible to passersby, we spent a lot of time there without consequence, except for the one time I got in trouble. On this particular day, there were 4 of us playing 2-on-2 when a group of college students, possibly 4 or 5, approached us. As they approached us, the strangers seemed taken aback and quickly apologized, explaining they mistook us for someone else. We reassured them that it was all right, but it was an odd encounter nonetheless. My friends were oblivious to their presence until they spoke up. The strangers then walked straight into the nearby forest, which was a bit peculiar, but they didn't seem threatening, so we carried on with our basketball game. Suddenly, just as the game ended, we all heard an ear-piercing, blood-curdling scream coming from the forest. Our heads turned towards the sound, and to our horror, we saw 2 huge men in ski masks attacking some of the college students we had spoken to earlier, wielding baseball bats. As one of the attackers looked up and spotted us, Fear seized my heart, and we all bolted back inside. I'm ashamed to say that we didn't do anything to help the victims. Instead, we returned to our respective classes and came up with any excuse possible to avoid arousing suspicion. I still don't know how, but somehow, the school must have discovered the whole situation, because soon after, we found ourselves in a real lockdown. Thankfully, the lockdown ended without any incidents, but rumors quickly spread about what had happened. Apparently, it was a drug deal gone awry, and a few college students ended up in the hospital with serious injuries. Given what I witnessed, I wasn't surprised. The individuals wearing ski masks were never identified or apprehended. To this day, I still think about how easily we could have been mistaken for the college students and attacked. I can't shake the memory of the ski-masked man who made direct eye contact with us. For the rest of the semester, this incident was the topic of conversation among everyone. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and share the video. The best is yet to come.